Hello, my sober lovelies. Before we dive in, I'm really excited to announce my group coaching program for women is live, and you can join now. So excited for this because let's be real here. Quitting drinking isn't just about saying no to the glass of wine or booze. It's about what comes after. All the fear, the boredom, the late night anxiety, and the stories you've been telling yourself for years. And that's where my Rewired Sober group coaching program for women comes in. It's only $247. I'm being totally transparent on the price. It's for 3 months, and you'll learn how to shift your mindset, build habits that actually stick, and question the core beliefs that have been keeping you stuck, and find healthier ways to deal with that loneliness and that now what feeling. The best part is you don't have to do it alone. We'll have live group coaching sessions weekly, and there'll be a bunch of women walking through it with you. It's not another cookie cutter sobriety program for mommy vloggers. It's neuroscience meets real life, and it's designed for women to help you not just stay sober, but actually feel good living sober. You can join anytime, and I'd love to see you on the inside. So start today, get instant access. The link's in the show notes. Hey there, and welcome to You've Been Selected. I'm your host, Kate Vitella, and something tells me you didn't just stumble across this podcast by accident. Maybe, just maybe, you've been called here, like selected by the universe for something more. So let's get started. Welcome back to another episode, and today is a really special day for me. I am taping this episode on February 10th, 2025. I'm in New York, and it is my 7-year soberversary. So I really wanted to record this today. I'm sitting here in my hotel room with my laptop and a crappy little camera and mic. I don't have my nice fancy mic, so pardon the audio and the sirens and sounds of the city. But I really wanted to record this today because it's a really important day for me. So bear with me here. I have been coming to New York Fashion Week during my soberversary for the last 4 years. My first year here, I think I was turning 3 years sober. Geez, I can't even remember how long it's been. And it just so happens because February falls right in that time of Fashion Week when my soberversary is. I'm either getting on a plane or landing or walking in a show or something right on the day of my soberversary. So it's just been like this magical time of year. And I'm from the Pacific Northwest, so February is like the most shit weather. It is dark, it is cold, it is an awful month with like nothing to look forward to. So this has given me something like major to look forward to. And why I got sober in February, well, that's another story, but you can listen to the earlier episodes where I talked about finally being down to a minimum wage job working at Macy's. And after the holiday season, I was a temporary hire. I got laid off. So here it is, early February. I have no job. I can't even get a minimum wage job. I'm unhireable as a nurse, and I'm at like my rockiest bottom. And so I finally, February 10th is my sober date. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about New York and why it's so important to me and how it's become part of my sober story. And one of the things that comes to mind is like, when you're drinking and you're like planning your life with your friends at the bar and you're dreaming of all the things you're, quote, gonna do. Oh, yeah, one day I'm gonna do this. Well, I've always wanted to do this. Or you dream of a business, or you have this artistic talent, or you've always wanted to grow a garden or buy an old home or whatever it is, right? All the things that we sit around and talk about. Oh, we shoulda, coulda, woulda. New York has always been something for me growing up where I've always wanted to come here. The history, the art, the fashion, the culture, Fran Lebowitz and Anna Wintour from Vogue and Halston and, Studio 54, Andy Warhol, and then they filmed Sex and the City here and so many other cool shows. I mean, Iris Apfel, one of my fashion icons. New York was like the epicenter for all of that and still is to this day. But I would sit around and talk with my friends about, yeah, I've just always wanted to go to Fashion Week in New York, drunk as a skunk in a bar, or in the end, drunk at home by myself on the couch. It was like I couldn't quite pull the trigger and get my shit together. Like I never really actually accomplished many of the things I set out to do. So when I got sober and I started writing for the Sober Curator, I was writing a fashion blog, and the editor, Elise, introduced me somehow, some way to Alexandra Nyman, who is the creative director of the Break Free Fashion Show, which is dedicated to mental health and addiction recovery. So here it is, Recovery on the Runway. It's a merging of mental health and fashion in New York. And I interviewed her and dozens of designers and photographers and models for one of my first columns. And I was squealing with delight at 2 years sober that I even got the opportunity to talk to these people about their life in New York and all these things. And long story short, I got invited to walk in New York Fashion Week for Alexandra Nyman's collection. It's called I Am Lady Cat or Hello Lady Cat. And so my first time ever to New York, I'm sober and I get to walk in New York Fashion Week. I mean, that doesn't happen to people, right? I'm nothing special, but that kind of stuff just doesn't happen. And it happened to me. And I've come back to New York every single year. And I ended up walking in the Break Free show as a model for 3 years in a row. And then this year was my 4th year here in the city, and I didn't walk. I just attended and really enjoyed myself in Fashion Week. But every time I come here, it just reminds me of the fact that none of this would have happened if I wouldn't have gotten sober. So many things in my life would never have happened. Not only would I not probably be alive and functioning, but I just wouldn't be the person I am. There were so many parts of my life where I always dreamt of, right? I always wanted to have my own podcast. I always wanted to write a blog, you know, but I just couldn't because I was a drunk and all I did was daydream and then drink. And, all of these things I've accomplished because of sobriety. So coming to New York every year, spending another year here in the city, getting, another year sober, meeting new people, it has just been the most amazing experience. And it's really been something I look forward to every single year. And so here I am. And I thought it was important to record this today, even though it probably won't air until mid-March or so. But I was just wanting to talk about, a lot of people do podcasts on, 7 things I've learned in 7 years of sobriety. Well, dude, I could not sum it up in 7 things. I feel like I've become a completely different person. And so I wanted to talk about some of the things I'm proud of myself for, because, you don't hear that a lot. And New York is just one of the things, New York, the whole experience in New York is something I'm proud of because it's something I did completely sober. Another thing that I'm really proud of is the simple fact of saving up money to travel. I'm a small town girl. I'm from the Pacific Northwest. I don't get out much, or I didn't before I got sober. And I love spending time in New York and LA in the fashion scene, art and culture. I have friends here. And, one of the things I do in sobriety now is I set aside $300 a paycheck just to go to a travel account so that I can hop on a plane when something cool comes up. Stuff I wouldn't have had the clarity or insight to do, right, as I'm drinking, nor would I have had the extra money. I mean, come on, let's face it, I'm a nurse, I'm not rich. And so not drinking, I have this extra money now that I can put toward travel and clothes and fun stuff. And I'm so proud of myself for even such a small act of adulting where, I just, I think ahead and I plan ahead and, I see things through to the end. A really cool thing I've also done this trip while I was here in the city was get a tattoo. And I have lots of tattoos, but this is my first one I've ever gotten in New York. I have a small 777 tattooed on my left forearm, and I did that, just yesterday. And the reason I did it was 777, angel numbers, indicating that you're on a spiritual journey, and this year has been like a massive spiritual journey for me. But I've also gotten a lot of tattoos this last year, and I kind of wanted to talk about this because I had this aha moment today. And, when I was drinking, tattoos on another person, it seems sort of like gritty and edgy and, a little wild and reckless. Like it gave off that vibe. And I was really sort of afraid to get any. I mean, I have your obligatory like tramp stamp and ankle tattoo from when I was 18, but I didn't have any visible tattoos. And I was thinking about it the other day, and I told a friend, "Oh, I'm just in my Vivian Westwood era. I'm really loving this punk theme." No, that's not it. I'm not so shallow that I would tattoo myself versus go and just buy some plaid and call it a Vivian Westwood look. Really what it is that I'm proud of myself and that I'm not afraid of what anybody thinks. You know, when I was drinking really heavy, I had to work so hard to prove this alter ego of put together Kate, organized Kate, you know, reliable Kate, when I had a dark side. And the person I was presenting to the public uh, was not the person behind closed doors that was drinking her ass off. So I felt like I sort of lived a double life, and I never wanted to like do anything to stand out. I really wanted to, look perfect and kind of fit in because I was so ashamed of what I was doing behind closed doors. And, I didn't want to be perceived a certain way. Most of it was shame though, because I had like this alter ego. And I think I had some cognitive dissonance, guilt. I knew I was doing bad things behind closed doors. And I wanted to be nurse Kate and corporate Kate and bougie Kate and look put together and be good wifey material. And these days, I don't give a fuck. And it's not because I really don't care. It's because I've proven to myself that I'm a really good human. You know, I could show up at work tomorrow with a skull and crossbones tattooed on my face, and they would still be like, Kate's one of our most reliable employees. She's solid. She never calls out sick. She's trustworthy. She's honest. She's a super hard worker. You know, it doesn't even matter. I feel like now is a time in my life when I can wear whatever I want and just tattoo my whole freaking body. Like, I don't care. And for a while, I thought I was just in this rebellious phase. No, it's not that at all. It's that I finally just am free and I get to do exactly what I want and be 100% who I want. And I'm not living a double life. Like what you see is what you get. So 7 years sober, I'm getting a tattoo, on the Lower East Side. I don't care. I'm having fun. And it didn't occur to me that that's really maybe subconsciously what was going on with me. And I just want to say, like, you can do anything you want when you get sober. And I know that sounds cliche, but all the things we dream of and all the things we plan, and you can literally do anything. You are capable of doing anything. It's crazy. When you plan your life, you save your money, you think ahead, you're organized, you're trustworthy. You have equity in your job and your friendships. Like the sky's the limit. And that being said, one of the things that's really come up for me a lot lately is, especially at this point in my journey, is it's okay to evolve and change and to continue to grow. This whole journey for me has been nothing but evolution and transformation. And I was just telling a client the other day, I hope that you outgrow me. It's okay on your sober journey to outgrow your teachers and your mentors. You will outgrow people and places and things, jobs, old friends, even romantic relationships. It's okay to outgrow those things as you evolve. And there was a time when I was really hesitant to move forward in any phase of my recovery. I wanted to stick with one friend group or one teaching or one mentor because I thought outgrowing meant that I was being too rebellious, letting my ego get in the way. No, it wasn't that at all. You know, one of my favorite teachers, Tommy Rosen, he says, if you're not evolving and growing in recovery, like, what are you even doing? And it makes me laugh every time I think about that. So, my advice to you is stay freaking curious and continue to investigate because, dude, change is inevitable. And I have to say, this phase in my sobriety, this year for me has been the biggest year in terms of my spiritual awakening. Like, I had a mini spiritual awakening, I think, when I first got sober. But this year, man, I have been on a spiritual journey and I have learned so much. And, I've come to know there is like a creative intelligence with the intention of love and abundance and expansion. um, you know, God introduced intention into the quantum energy field. And I feel like if God didn't intend for our existence and flourishing, we wouldn't fucking be here. So this year, I've really felt like my God, my higher power, my version of God, spirit, source, whatever you want to freaking call it, it's within me. I am a piece of that, a manifestation of the divine. And I can finally tap in. I can tap in to that source, to that God consciousness. And I feel like that is also one of the biggest gifts this year has brought to me. Like, if nothing else happened on my sober journey, well, maybe not. I really love New York. But I think this piece of it is one of the most important things that's happened to me. And the reason I say happened to me, because it was really sort of a slow uncovering of, okay, maybe I'll read this book. Well, maybe I'll take this class. Well, here's a book on Buddhism. Maybe I'll check that out. Well, what does this mean? What's this prayer? What's the Bhagavad Gita? Why do people do Kundalini yoga? You know, what does this mean? Why do people say source and not God? You know, is heaven a place you go to? Or, is hell like underground? I didn't know. And I got really curious this year. And so it feels like a miracle that I have come into consciousness, that I've come into this knowing. And this year, 6 to 7, is one of the most memorable of my entire sober journey because of my increased spirituality. I even got the words "I am" tattooed somewhere. I have so many tattoos now, you guys, I can't even keep track. But, you know, I'm a part of the divine. And God, if I could sum up this last year, it would just be a higher level of consciousness, because now I can kind of be the watcher of my thoughts. And I've learned a lot about the ego and the fear and separateness that keeps us, down. And I tell myself now, like, I'm egoing. I'm kind of just trying to stay the same. And I've spent a lot of time studying metaphysics, quantum physics. I feel so much like the world and life exists in energies and frequencies. And this year I've been kind of manifesting. So I'm that girl that's like, hashtag I manifested it. And yeah, this year's just been absolutely incredible for me. And so, how cool to have a platform now where I can share, so much of what I've been through. Because, I heard someone say, like, sobriety and recovery is like you give up waiting. Um, you give up denying the present moment. Like, you give up that perpetual feeling of discontentness. And you give up waiting that something better is coming for you. Like, I used to live my life feeling like, well, I could be in a good mood when this happens, or it's going to be a lot easier when this changes, or when this is over, when this gets better. I spent so much time denying the present moment. And, speaking of tattoos, got another one right here on my right, on my arm. It says the word now. All this has happened in the last year because I've become this person that if I wanna get a tattoo, I'm freaking getting one. And all of this has become such an eye opener for me on this entire journey. And, this circling back to New York, I'm sitting here in my hotel room and I'm looking out the window. I'm in Soho and I'm overlooking the city. And, every night I've been calling and talking to my husband, and he's celebrating 3 years sober when I fly home to Seattle. And let me tell you guys, New York is also a part of his and I's story in our whole journey because, as I mentioned, I think in another episode with Elise Bryson, I think one of the first times I came to New York, I had just celebrated 3 years sober, 4 years sober, I can't remember. And I had just walked in New York Fashion Week, and my husband called me. He was not sober, and he had gotten a DUI and wrecked his car. And I'm, like, standing on the street corner in New York with my friend, listening to my husband on the phone, thinking, "How could you ruin this epic, event for me? How could you ruin this trip to New York by calling and telling me that you crashed your car?" But, guess what? When I landed in Seattle from that trip, he got sober. So it just feels like when I'm here in New York, like it's so much of my story. It's even so much of my husband's story now. And, next year will be his 4 years and maybe he'll come with me. He hasn't yet come with me. And I'm sort of glad because he would probably put the kibosh on my excessive shopping and hoarding that I do here and staying up until 3 in the morning. But yeah, it's funny that so much is wrapped up in New York and my sobriety. I would have never thought that. So, I'm gonna wrap it up here, hopefully I can't even tell how long I've been recording. I've just been literally talking and talking with 0 notes, and so if this is a horrific episode, I apologize, but I had so much to say. I'm sure as soon as I stop recording, I'll be like, "Oh, wait, I forgot one more thing." But I hope this gives you some kind of smile, laugh, and like glimmer of hope that whatever your pipe dream is, like the only way you're going to get there is to get your shit together, get sober, and start putting pen to paper of your dreams and your hopes and your goals. And that's going to be the first step. I am constantly freaking blown away at my life. I'm blown away. And so I guess these days, you know, I just kind of let my life flow. That is another big change for me in sobriety. I used to force everything. I used to be so anxious and try to plan things down to the detail. And you just can't do that. You can't plan things like that. For instance, my first day here, I took a wrong turn on West Broadway. My tattoo shop hadn't opened yet. It started to snow. I was getting frustrated. I wanted to go to Patricia Field's shop on the Lower East Side, and I was going to be late for this event she was having. So I just wanted to pop in and see it. And I thought, gosh, I can't believe I'm going to miss this. So I popped into her store a little bit early. And for those of you who maybe have been living under a rock, Patricia Fields or Pat Fields is the costume designer behind all of the epic shows that we've all come to love that are, involve in fashion, like The Devil Wears Prada and Emily in Paris, Sex in the City, Ugly Betty. I mean, just she is this icon, this genius in creative fashion design. And she has a little art space, I think, slash like shop where she really supports new and up and coming designers and artists. And so back to my story, I popped into her shop right as they opened. And I just kind of wanted to look around, knowing that I was going to miss the party. And there she was sitting behind the desk, organizing a few things. And I got to meet her in person. And I know that wouldn't have happened if I would have tried to plan it perfectly and make it to her party and, you know, just letting it flow, just being like, you know what, I'm just going to go in and trust the universe. Everything's going to work out today. And there she was. And I died you guys. I freaking died. I have been following her work for easily 10 years. I read her book. I've watched countless documentaries. And there she is. She wasn't supposed to be there. She was, you know, maneuvering for the party, and like cases of champagne were being delivered, and she had no makeup on, and she was just like not expecting any guests. And I'm not even sure why the store front door was unlocked. I think it was an accident. I was the only person in her store. And I just walked in and I was like, oh my God, you're Patricia Fields. And, I stood around and chatted with her forever and shopped. And I left that store and walked down the street, and I was squealing. I called one of my best friends. I called my husband. I was just screaming. And I thought, this is like a testament to your life. Just let shit flow. Just let it go, man. And, everything always works out. So what a cool trip this has been. Thanks for joining me on this rant. And thank you for all the support and love on social media. If you have any specific topics that you want me to cover on this podcast and not have just me going on these big rants, email me. Hit me up on social media. I'd love to hear from you. So that's a wrap for today. Thanks for tuning in. You can find me on my website at katevitella.com. You can also connect with me on Instagram at Kate Vitella. I would love to hear from you. Any feedback or questions, shoot me a note. So until next time, peace within and bullshit out.